Hi, my name is Jill. You are here at Road Culture Rules, and I'm going to take you on a personal journey here in a moment, a little road trip that's like a way oversharing moment, but I think it might help the bigger conversation. So I am going to do that, but before we do it, we're going to take a deep breath, because one of those days I need it. Hold for 4, exhale for 4, and we will see you on the other side. So I shared yesterday that I had something I wanted to explain about what I really think this last chunk of time has been about for me, and what maybe the real underlying purpose of this whole journey has been. And it is a little personal, so I will just throw that up front. A little uncomfortable, but whatever, right? If it helps serve the greater purpose, what do I care? I'm actually, I think, good about this. Is a good thing for me to be doing, because I don't have any kids. I don't have anybody embarrassed. There's nobody to, there's no repercussions from anything that I say at this point. So with that caveat, I had like this big aha moment. So as I shared yesterday, I've been thinking a lot about the male-female stuff, and how that balances within, and how we balance that in a romantic relationship, and how we balance that globally. And I think all 3 levels need to happen, but we're still having a very personal experience. So separate from what's happening at the global level and things like that, each of our own personal lives is about us. And for better or for worse, this is what's happening. And so, my story is just like a million other women's stories. So there's nothing exciting or dramatic about it, other than I think when we get to that aha moment about what's actually happening for us. And so the reason I wanted to share this is that while it won't be true for everyone, I think it's really might be helpful for some of you. Maybe for men to understand, maybe for women to make sense of some of their history, and maybe for some men to make sense also. So one of the big questions that we have about going out on any kind of journey or experience, especially with women going by yourself, is it safe? And we've talked a little bit about being safe and being comfortable, and how can we be safe in the world is kind of a scary question, especially as a woman. There's a lot of fear around that, and there's a lot more fear, I think, when we've had experiences that have not borne out to be that safe. And so what I realized was, when I started this journey, the mandate in my head was a walk in faith, was could at a spiritual level, would I be supported out in the world? And that's happened, very simply, but I've never not been taken care of. But like so many women, I think that there's this internal battle between, I have to be strong and I can take care of myself, and, men hurt me and I can't depend on a man, and all that stuff. And so that's kind of a background for a lot of us, and it's an experience for a lot of us. And, in my personal experience, up until, these changes of these last few years, is I hadn't really had the experience of, I didn't grow up with the experience of being provided and protected by a man. I had numerous experiences that were both violations and betrayals in the way that it's not supposed to happen. So there was no foundation for me to trust men. I never came into the world having that experience. And yesterday, I talked about men want respect, which to me I think also means trust. And so to implicitly be able to trust somebody without having had that personal experience, or the belief that I can keep myself safe, that isn't going to happen. And so I attracted all kinds of men, I know this comes as a huge surprise, that violated that trust, or did stuff, or weren't available, or whatever version of that. So I take responsibility for that. That isn't, a blaming, angry thing. But it was an aha moment. And when I left, I didn't leave thinking, I want to go out and learn how to trust men. I didn't even go out thinking I want to figure out if I can be safe in the world, Or, can I prove I'm strong enough to do this? Because I've always felt very strong and capable. That wasn't ever a question for me. But there's a difference. What I've learned is being defensive and contained and unwilling to receive help because so often it wasn't safe. And that has been my aha moment. This last, especially these last 7 years or 6.5 years being out here in the middle of nowhere, traveling around, I've kept saying that it's put me in a position, either through finances or logistics or just, being out in the middle of nowhere, I have had to be able to trust and receive help from other people, both men and women. And this is the first time in my life that I've been able to receive that in a way and not, get myself in trouble or create problems behind it. And it's been a way for me to build up faith and trust that people out, both men and women, people out in the world, I can be safe with them. And that in turn has allowed me to relax my need to be strong, contained, and I know it still looks like I'm hidden out here in the middle of nowhere. That's a whole separate issue. But it's allowed me to heal up in a way that I could never do in a romantic relationship because those are so loaded. There's so much emotional stuff going on. So it's been a super slow, incremental process. But I really had that aha moment in the last few days that something has really shifted. And, there's been a lot of embarrassment inside or humiliation in terms of being, looking like this, in terms of I'm okay with it, but there's an awareness that there's a lot of judgment about being poor, being overly simple. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you successful? Why haven't you moved forward in a way that everybody else has or other people have? And, I don't have all the answers to that, but I do know, and I feel really strongly about this, is that there's something that's softened in me that has allowed me to have faith and trust in other people that I didn't used to have. And that is really important. And, I will hope that there comes the day where I'm able to do that with another person. Because again, I think there's 3 levels. There's what's going on within yourself. Can I trust myself to keep myself safe? And I think I have proved that to myself. I can be safe. Can I do it in an intimate relationship, and can I do it out in the world? And I think, I've done both. I've done internally and I've done out in the world. And so at some point, I hope to be able to do that in an intimate relationship where I can prove that to myself that I can stay safe. But the reason I wanted to bring that up is it's easy to look at other people and judge what they're doing. And it's easy to look at other people and say, well, why aren't you? Like, I get that all the time. Why aren't you in a relationship? And usually it's because you're a lesbian, which is so weird because this whole town is full of them, which for whatever reason. And it's the one time I'm not, but it's like, no. It doesn't have anything to do with anybody else. It has everything to do with what's going on inside of me. And I think, what I talked about is that, men and women, I'm understanding these differences is that in most cases, relationships are really important to women and they're not as important to men in the same way. So I think there's a lot of struggle there. And in that way, I'm not normal as a woman because they're just not as important to me. Because, the other thing I know about myself is that I didn't come into this world to be, married and have kids and raise a family because I came for another reason. I believe that. And part of my belief is that I really want to be involved in the bigger level in terms of love thy neighbor, the bigger picture about all of us. But I still need to pass through the gauntlet of the personal stuff. And so I just, I wanted to share that because it's not everything, but it's been like this huge aha moment that sometimes we need to step out of romantic relationships for a period of time because there's something much greater going on. And it can be very difficult if you're on the outside looking in, especially if you want to be involved with that person and you don't understand why it's not working. And I believe, all relationships are here to facilitate our internal work so that we can create a better world with each other. And sometimes, again, that means a lot of people. Sometimes that means one person. Sometimes that means no person. So, you know, I share that, one, so maybe we can all relax, not take it personally, understand that there's an ebb and flow in terms of what's happening in our life. And this journey that we're taking is so important because it's not just about our internal healing. And it's not about stopping at the romantic, familial level. I think the only way that we truly transform the bigger picture, all of us, is by working through the personal. And that's why I'm such a huge fan of going out on these adventures or going out on these journeys as a way to heal what's going on within us, because you can't really do much for the world if you're just a raging mess. And no amount of doing out in the world really accomplishes anything if you're a huge raging mess. I mean, let's just be honest about that. So that's just me oversharing. I will talk a little bit more about that probably, but I just wanted to start the conversation on that and how it's really changed me. And I'm so grateful to everybody who's been so supportive and generous and allowed me the space, the time, and the room to really kind of heal up a lot of that stuff inside and relax. And the same is true for you guys, because these last 6 months I have survived on the little tiny bit from YouTube and, you know, the few book sales. That's and there have been people who have made larger donations, and those are the people that have really kind of kept me up over the edge. So I really appreciate that. And I think the best way I think that I can give back is to share more of this, so that we just keep getting the energy out there versus telling you how it is. Because I can do that too, but I don't really want to do that anymore. I want to try to figure out a way to communicate it so that people can hear it versus just saying it for the making noise. Because there's plenty of people saying stuff to make noise. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you to you. Thank you for listening. If this has value, to share it, because I think we need to move more in the direction of how can we all become happier, healthier, and more whole within. And if that means taking a journey by yourself, I am all for that. Because in the end, everybody wins. And that's what I'm all about. Not just me, not just you, everybody. Because when everybody wins, we win. That's the way it works. I know. Maybe you don't believe me, but it's the way it works. So that's enough sharing. So one more deep breath for the road as together we rise with the sun in our eyes. There's lots of love in my heart. My feet are firmly on the ground, so together we will walk on survival road, one step at a time. So live free and die wild, my friend. I will see you next time.